The opinions expressed in this program reflect only those of the participants and are not necessarily those of the sponsors, management, or staff of WTBQ Radio or FST Broadcasting Corporation.
WTBQ. Good morning and welcome to Horse Sense. I'm your host, Kristin Rolando, and I'm here with my co-host today, Kristin Scalfani. Good morning, Kristin.
Good morning.
Kristin, if you were in the studio, you'd see that her microphone just fell off.
Upside down, backwards.
All right, so we're ready to roll. You're listening to Horse Sense. And again, we're so happy to be here this morning at WTBQ, radio worth listening to. And I guess we're all pretty happy that the sun is finally out. And
Yay.
It feels like spring. I'm looking at Kristin's coffee mug. She decorated it this morning, and it says, "Yay, spring." So, yep, it is spring. But I have to thank our sponsors because we couldn't do Horse Sense without our sponsors. And I want to thank Earth Tech Associates. They're located in Vernon, New Jersey. And they will meet all your excavation and paving needs. And you know what? They're getting really busy. So it's spring, and, you know, everybody waits for spring to do whatever they have to do. And I also want to thank Congelosi Trailer Sales. They're located up in Montgomery, and I believe they have an event today at noon. So go up to Montgomery to Congelosi's Trailer Sales and pick out a beautiful horse trailer, a utility trailer, or snowmobile. No snowmobiling for a while, right? But you can join them today at Congelosi Trailers. Our goal here is to educate people about horses and educate people about what we call horse sense. And horse sense can be, hopefully, teaches some common sense. But I have to thank Dan for coming in and helping us operate the board and keeping it all together. And, of course, Frank and Taylor. So WTBQ, radio worth listening to. We do stream worldwide, so you can listen on your tablet from your smartphone. And today I want to encourage you, we're going to give some tickets away, so you can call in at 845-651-1110, or you can check out our website, or you can even email me at horses@warwick.net. And again, thank to our sponsors. But today I'm pretty excited because I have a pretty special guy on the phone. Hopefully he's there, but as a horse show dad who has followed his, I'm reading this now, as a horse show dad who has followed his 4 kids and his wife up and down the East Coast as they participate in shows from pony finals to the ASPCA Maclay for the last 15 years, Tom knows a little something about horses, kids, and showing. In fact, Tom's youngest child, TJ, carried the torch to the equitation ring in 2016. Finishing the year by winning both the Platinum Performance and the USEF Show Jumping Talent Search Finals East and the Pessoa U.S. Hunter Seat Medal Final. And guess what? It was won by his sister Meg 4 years earlier. Tom, are you there?
I am indeed.
Good morning. How are you?
Very good, Christine. How are you today?
Well, we are excited. I'm good. Kristin's good. Dan's good. We're happy to have Tom O'Mara. Tom, I pulled up some things about you. Although I know you personally, Kristin, I said to Kristin, you better do a little bit of research because we got a special guy coming on. So.
It took hours.
Yeah.
I was Googling all night.
She thought...
Hi, Chris.
Hello. Good morning.
So we're really happy to have you. You're not only a horse show dad. We're going to talk about all the other incredible things you have done as in your professional career. But that takes a lot. 15 years up and down the East Coast, and I'm sure you've headed over to the West Coast on time before with some of the horse shows that all you have to do just to get to the top of your game. So
that's true. Yeah, a lot of traveling with the family over the years, and it's been we were blessed. It's been a good thing for us.
So let's just start with a little bit about you. I had your daughter on, Abby, a couple of weeks ago. Abby is the assistant hunt seat coach at Texas A&M. And Abby kind of gave us a little bit of flavor of how it all started. But let's hear your version. How did the kids and your wife get started riding?
Well, I've been asked this question a number of times because, all 4 of the kids have shown as junior riders and as amateurs now, and 2 of them collegiate NCAA riding. So how do we get started? I've always liked horses growing up personally. I've always liked going to the racetrack. I grew up in Colts Neck, New Jersey, so there were horses around. So I always thought they were beautiful animals. But when I met my wife, she always wanted to be riding and showing horses since she was a little girl. And so when we moved to New Jersey, and she had a chance to, I think she started riding, taking some lessons before we actually had our first child. But when the girls and then our son all were growing up, they did every sport there was. And we wanted to just give them the opportunity to be part of team sports. And I think it's very healthy for a lot of kids to get outside and do all those things. But finally, they've been driving by horse farms, and I think it was my wife, actually, who drove them by a farm. They stopped to talk to some horses one day, and the girl said, can we take, pony lessons? And so she connected them and got them all out riding horses.
Good for you, Liz, if you're listening. So kudos, Liz. That's what a good mama does, right? She takes her kids to the barn and gets them on a horse for sure. So we're excited to have Tom Amara with us today, because Tom is a guy that being part of the change. That's a title actually in one of the articles that I had pulled up and read about you a while ago. But you're not only a horse show dad, you're a professional in the finance world and usually successful. And you are a man that makes change. So we're happy to have you here today. But let's talk about some of the change that's going on with, in 2002, the National Collegiate Equestrian Association, they basically had created a young equestrian program. Let's talk about that just a little bit before we go to a break, because every 15 minutes we have to go to a break on the show. So let's just get this conversation started about the NCAA and the Division I level. You're very much involved in that, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I am the co-chair of the National Advisory Board to the NCEA, the National Collegiate Equestrian Association. And I'd like to clarify that for your listeners, because oftentimes people hear NCEA or they hear NCAA.
Right.
Well, NCEA, as I just said, is the coaches organization that oversees the day-to-day activity of the emerging sport of NCAA equestrian. And that's kind of the phrase I used to make it clear to people. And I hope that was.
No, that's great. So thank you for clarifying that, because it's the NCEA, National Collegiate Equestrian Association.
Correct.
And how long have you been involved with that?
So I've been involved with them since, our first daughter went to college and decided not to ride in college, Casey. But we were exploring, what are our kids going to do when they go to college, which is really how I ended up getting involved with this. They were all junior riders, ponies, horses. And as they got older, we knew they were going off to school. We were making decisions about what type of schools to pick, where they want to go, what they're going to study. You're taking the SATs, getting their essays ready and all that type of stuff. But we started exploring. Their passion had become equestrian as young junior riders. And what were the options in college? So this is what I get asked all the time, Christine. People come to me on horse show grounds and want to talk to other parents. What do we do and what are the options? So as many of your listeners, I'm sure, are aware, there's a wonderful organization called the Intercollegiate Horse Show Association, the IHSA. And I think I listened to your show with my daughter, Abby, and you rode for centenary in the IHSA, right?
I did. A long time ago. But I won't tell you when.
Well, and this is in no reference to when you rode, but the IHSA has been around for 50 years. So it's a wonderful organization.
Am I that old?
I didn't say you were on the first team.
All right, keep going. Skip over that point.
So the IHSA has been around for many, many years, and it offers a lot of different ability level riding. In fact, you could be a complete beginner when you go to college, have never sat on a horse, and join your college's club team and be do walk trot, and it's a great way to meet other people, and you get to go to some horse shows, and you get to compete in that ability class. And then, of course, it moves up from walk trot up to novice, intermediate, and then they have their open riders, which I'm sure you were one of the open riders. But so that organization's been around for a very long time, and there's 370 colleges in the United States that have IHSA teams. It's the Intercollegiate Horse Show Association. And I know at one point they had up to 10,000 people riding on these teams. So obviously a great success, lots of equestrian-minded, collegiate-age people riding that program. But in the 1990s, we came up with, listen, there's a law in the United States called a federal mandate called Title IX, which is a law that protects women, gives women equal opportunities in all walks of life. It does apply to athletics and even collegiate athletics. So in the 1990s, the Justice Department talked to the NCAA about the fact that there were not enough female opportunities in collegiate athletics. Now, listen, everyone on those IHSA teams, we know they're athletes, but they were not part, and they still are not part of the school's athletic department. So that's really when the NCAA sat down and said, how do we get more women's opportunities in college athletics? And that's when they started. The emerging sport process for women's programs to come on board, and Equestrian was asked to be part of that.
Interesting. Now, we have to go to a break, so we're going to keep on that thread in a moment. Don't touch the dial, and we'll be back just in a moment. Don't go anywhere, Tom.
Congelosi Trailer Sales is where you can design your custom trailer. Whether an open or enclosed trailer, horse, automobile, or stock, come sit down with one of the Congelosi trailer experts and bring your vision to reality. Congelosi Trailers, the finest trailers at very competitive prices. Congelosi is a full-service trailer facility that has been family-owned and operated for over 30 years. Congelosi has over 250 trailers, both new and used, as well as a full selection of parts in stock. Congelosi Trailers is your one-stop for all your trailer needs, whether to purchase, to sell, register, or just to maintain. The experts at Congelosi will help you make the right trailer purchase for your needs. Congelosi, the name you can always trust in the trailer business, conveniently located at 2201 State Route 17K in Montgomery. For more information, visit CongelosiTrailersales.com. EarthTech, an excavating and site contractor, a family-owned business with over 35 years of experience, provides service for both commercial and residential customers efficiently, professionally, and friendly. EarthTech covers all of your construction needs, from complete turnkey site development to a residential septic system for your home. With EarthTech's years of experience, knowledge, and wide range of equipment, they'll cover all your needs from small to extra-large projects. Visit their website, earth-tech.net, for a list of all the services they offer.
Hi, it's Tom Fursey. Sing along and relive the memories of the 1980s with me on The Magic of the 80s. Saturdays beginning at 6 p.m. on WTBQ, playing the best music. Magic of the
80s. This is Sister Anna. Listen to The Garden of the Child, a story discussion time with students. Story develops listening skills and imagination. Saturdays at 11:10 a.m. on WTBQ.
Good morning. We're back in the studio, WTBQ, radio worth listening to. I'm your host, Kristin Rolando, and with my co-host, Kristin Scafani. You're listening to Horse Sense, and I have Tom O'Mara with us. And we were just talking, Tom, you were giving us a little history, background of Title IX and equal opportunities in some capacity for women. Can we keep going? This is an interesting story.
Sure will. So that's when the NCAA back in the late 90s, they really sat down and said, they pulled together all the athletic directors of major college, or all college athletic programs, Division I, Division II, and Division III, and they said, listen, we need to create more opportunities for women. So how can we do this? And in the NCAA, you need to have, every sport is considered a championship sport, and they have to have 50 teams to be a championship sport. And that was a difficult hurdle for startup sports to get to. So they very, wisely created a lower bar for women's sports to be started up, so we can start creating, and then they would grow and to create more women's opportunities. And that's when they made the designation of emerging sport. And in an emerging sport, which only applies to women's sports, you can start a women's sport with as few as 15. 15. X amount of time to get to 40 teams to be declared championship. So that was the process, and it was wonderful. There's been a number of women's sports that have come through the emerging process and now are at championship level. And, of course, this is what I always tell people in the horse world. It's not like the USEF went to the NCAA and said, please make us an NCAA sport, because, as you all know, the NCAA, it has its problems, but it is the largest athletic organization out there. College sports in the United States is huge. So I always thought it was kind of a true testament to the sport that we all love in the horse world, that the NCAA really came to our sport and said, can we add equestrian to collegiate athletics? So to me, it was a home run when that happened. Now, they put their finger in the air when they first created this process and said, we'll give you 10 years to get to 40 teams. And with equestrian, it didn't get to 40 teams in 10 years. So there was a little bit of a hiccup about 4 years ago, but we've gotten through that. At that point in time, there was a subcommittee at the NCAA that said, hey, they haven't hit it. We gave them a 2-year extension, and they're not at 40 teams. And they thought about dropping it for a nanosecond, but it got some bad press at the time. But that's when the coaches formed an executive committee at the NCEA so they can make fast decisions. They hired an executive director, Dr. Leah Fiorentino, who currently runs the NCEA.
Smart move.
And she very quickly said, I'm going to form a national advisory board so we could get these businessmen and women from across the country to help us, grow this sport. And that's what I've been doing.
Well, you're doing a great job. And, like you said, there was some press, but now there's so much press out there now of what what the advisory board is doing. And you really are right at the forefront of that. And we're grateful for that because, in today's day, we have to have that equal opportunity for women.
That's right.
So I'm glad that you're doing that. And how often do you meet? Do you meet quarterly? How often does the advisory board meet?
Well, we talk probably every other day.
Oh, you do?
There's a lot of plates spinning there.
So you got, it is this effort so much worthwhile because, my wife Liz, and she said, there's just another job you took, Tom, that you're not getting paid for. But why
we love Liz. We love your wife.
Why do we do all this? I know. So do I. Why do we do all these things? Well, you know what? Kristin and Christine, you guys, you ladies know how great this sport is and what it does for young women and men. By the way, my son is an accomplished rider, as you mentioned at the opening of the show. Yeah. But the opportunities that it gives them and being part of a collegiate NCAA program is really unique. So as I mentioned earlier, my first daughter, decided not to ride in college. But she went to a university, Auburn University, that has a great NCAA team. And, by the way, they have a great IHSA team.
I didn't know Casey went to Auburn. I love Auburn. Alabama.
Yeah. Yes, she did indeed. So then Abby, who you had on the show a couple of weeks back, she ended up saying, I want to ride in college. So we explored all those opportunities. And she was recruited heavily by a lot of different NCAA programs. And we looked at IHS colleges that had club teams as well. And she decided to ride for University of Georgia and had a great career there. And then our daughter number 3, the girls always get mad when I number them, but it's the only way I can keep
I know, but
track
yeah,
of them
how do you
myself.
keep track of all that?
So Meg decided she ended up going to University of Georgia as well. And they rode on the team together for 1 year. Both of them were starters. It's funny, I had a friend of mine from Atlanta who I worked with at the time. He called me up, and he was a Georgia grad. And he said, how come we have all these O'Mara girls from New Jersey as our starters on the University of Georgia equestrian team? And I said, well, that's a good question. I said, do you have a problem with it? He said, well, not as long as they keep winning.
That's right.
Yeah. And both of them are usually successful, all the girls.
Yeah. So it's being involved with it. And what I've seen, not just for my kids, heck, parents could always point out how great certain things are for their children. But really, we spend so much time, Liz and I, on the sidelines of these collegiate meets. I'm going down next week is the national championships for the NCEA down in Waco, Texas, hosted by Baylor. April 18th through the 21st. And this will be my 9th year down at the national championships. And Liz and I have stood there many, many times. And you can see when you're there, all the top teams get invited. And, there's over 1,000 girls on these NCAA teams. Listen, there's only 24. Actually, we have some really good news I'm going to share with you in a second. But 24 NCAA teams, or teams that report to the NCAA that they have a women's varsity NCAA program, of which 20 actively compete in the format. So it's not 40, but it's a lot. Yeah. And they're all over the country, from California down Texas, Midwest, East Coast, Southeast. And what has happened is it's not the number of teams, but it's the number of participants. So as I said earlier, there's over 1,000 girls on these teams. And the key thing about NCAA is for your listeners to realize it is an NCAA collegiate sport. Those teams are all part of the athletic inventory at those universities, and they are treated like the football team, the soccer team, the softball team, the baseball team. They get all the perks of being an athlete. Now, there's also a lot of demands that come with being a collegiate athlete. There's workouts, and it is 5-6 days a week. They're in the gym. They're doing Pilates. They have to go to tutoring sessions. They make sure, they've created a safety net around these athletes to make sure that they maintain their grades. And it will be no surprise to you ladies, or to your listeners, but the schools that have these programs, their athletic directors, and even the presidents of those universities, they know who their NCAA equestrian teams are, because those teams have, if not the top, the number 2 GPA of all their athletic teams, and not only are they smart young ladies, but they also have, if not number 1, number 2 community service hours of all their athletic teams. So it's a high-quality student athlete, and I know that's no surprise to your listeners.
Right. No, not at all. But I have a question for you here. Is this,
yes,
in fact, when you said you were trying to get to 40 is what you were looking at, but
yep,
is it a rule still in the NCAA that the fact that they restrict the schools from going out and marketing their programs? Is that...
Well... Yes, that is a rule. That's not an equestrian restriction. That is an NCAA restriction. So it's just different. They're allowed to mark. They're allowed to say they have a team, but they protect the student athlete. There's all sorts of lawsuits with top basketball players and football players about universities using their image and whatnot, who owns it. But when you are an NCAA athlete, there are a lot of restrictions. You can't ride on another team. You ride for that university. And by the way, there's scholarships. These girls are on scholarships. Each team has 15 full scholarship equivalents that they can scatter across. Now, every team doesn't use the exact same amount. But in the
Did we lose you?
Oh, no.
college, quarter scholarships.
We thought we lost you there for a minute, Tom. Got to go back and say that. We kind of blanked out there a moment. The 15,
okay,
with the 15 the scholarships.
Yes. So the NCAA rule is for the sport of equestrian, they are allowed 15 scholarships, and they're scholarship equivalencies, which is common in most sports, collegiate sports, meaning you can split it into 30 half scholarships or 60 quarter scholarships. So the average team size is 38. Some schools have as few as 20, and the biggest program has 65 women on the team.
Which team is that? Do you know which team that is?
That is University of Georgia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Texas A&M, I know, has 50. So there's a couple with big, 65, I think, is Baylor University. So there's some big programs with a lot of people on them, but they all get treated as collegiate athletes on those programs. So the benefits are just tremendous. But you got to want to do it. You got to want to do this format. It's not for everybody. And we're trying to get more schools. So that's the key. Right now, these coaches of these programs, they're getting 200-300 video resumes a year for 5 spots that they can recruit for. So it kind of ties into my work with the National Federation. But we really needed to get out and educate and talk to athletic directors about this sport. And I can tell you, in the last 2 years, my cohorts on the National Advisory Board and we've been sitting down with people, athletic departments all across the country, and the athletic departments, most of them say to us, we never really knew about equestrian. We know it's there, but we don't know enough about it. And thank you very much for coming in and educating us. This is a high-quality student athlete, and we are interested in adding it. Now, we don't go just talk to any school. We go to schools that have like a vet program or an ag school or a great IHSA program or barns on campus, or, it's got to be, we look for the low-hanging fruit, but it makes a lot of sense for a lot of universities.
It absolutely does. So I'm talking to Tom O'Mara. We got to go to a break. You're listening to Horse Sense, but don't touch that dial. We'll be back in a moment.
EarthTech Associates is one of the top-rated excavating and site contractor companies in Orange County and New Jersey. EarthTech has 40 dedicated team members who take great pride in their work, and each project is always completed successfully and on time. EarthTech customers praise their professionalism and courtesy, attesting that all their projects are completed on time. EarthTech's priority is their customers' complete satisfaction. Visit their website, earth-tech.net. Congelosi Trailer Sales is where you can design your custom trailer. Whether an open or enclosed trailer, horse, automobile, or stock, come sit down with one of the Congelosi trailer experts and bring your vision to reality. Congelosi Trailers, the finest trailers at very competitive prices. Congelosi is a full-service trailer facility that has been family-owned and operated for over 30 years. Congelosi has over 250 trailers, both new and used, as well as a full selection of parts in stock. Congelosi Trailers is your one-stop for all your trailer needs, whether to purchase, to sell, register, or just to maintain. The experts at Congelosi will help you make the right trailer purchase for your needs. Congelosi, the name you can always trust in the trailer business, conveniently located at 2201 State Route 17K in Montgomery. For more information, visit CongelosiTrailersales.com.
Hi, this is Professor Richard Hull, host of the Warwick Historical Society's weekly show, History Alive. Tune in every Monday at 11:05 to learn how history is your past, present, and future. WTBQ, radio worth listening to.
WTBQ weather. Today we'll start out with sunshine. Temperatures warm quickly into the 70s, but this afternoon a cold front moves in with more clouds, and it also drops temperatures into the 60s and even 50s by late in the day. Then tonight it drops into the mid to upper 30s with areas of drizzle, and on Sunday it's 40 to 45 for a high with more showers and drizzle. And a period of rain is expected on Monday, a little bit warmer though, with highs near 55. From the WTBQ Weather Center, I'm Mike Mahalo.
WTBQ. Good morning. You're listening to Horse Sense. My name is Kristin Rolando. I'm here with Kristin Sclafani, and I have special guest Tom O'Mara on the line with us. Tom, you still there?
I am. Can you ladies hear me?
Yeah, yep. We can hear you perfectly. But I did say earlier to our listeners that we were going to have a question, and if anybody calls in with the answer to this, and I told Kristin 3 times, do not answer the question, Kristin. She said she has no control. But call in at 845-651-1110. And for those of you listeners maybe down in Colts Neck or listening, the O'Mara farm is called what? Everyone's got to guess this, okay? So it's known for, I'll give you a hint. It's we want to know what the acronym is for the name of the farm. Okay, what does it mean, the acronym of the name of the O'Mara's farm? So if anybody knows that question, the answer to that, we're going to give you tickets to our comedy show that's coming up on April 21st. And that's for the Sale Foundation. And we're going to get back to this topic in a moment, but I want to just back up a moment. I want to tell our listeners how I met Tom, okay? It's amazing. When I was at Centenary riding for the team, I met a girl named Lauren Zoller. And Lauren and I, a long time ago, we are still very good friends. So Lauren rides at Hugo's barn, Anna Marie and Hugo's barn. So she talked to me about Liz and all these great people at Olympia Farm down in Farmingdale, New Jersey. And Lauren, we talked, this is a long time ago, but we've talked for years, and she's been riding with Hugo and Anna Maria. And she always talked about, again, this group of people that were just so incredible. And long story short, fast forward, I went down, met Hugo, and I met the gang, your gang there at the barn, and met your wife, Liz. And I have to tell you a story about Liz. Kristin and I do a fundraiser every year at the Middlesex County Horse Show at the New Jersey Horse Park, where it's coming up again in June. And we schlep about 80 auction items. And that team at the barn helped us every year. They help us. They support the Journey or Not charity ride, comes out and cheers it on, the teams. And I remember the first year I had a signed, it was like a golf, the golfers signed it, and it was framed, beautiful glass. It was like 2 by 3 foot. It was gigantic. It was valuable too. And we stood it up. Kristin, Tom, is a detail person. She works on the auction to the detail. Make sure it's beautiful. And we stood this beautiful PGA autographed, framed, and it blew off the table and it smashed on the floor. And your wife, Liz, came running over and she says, I'll take care of this. And Liz zoomed off with it in her car and came back and had it re-glassed and reframed.
Wow.
So,
fantastic.
She's awesome.
yeah, so you guys at the barn down there, you're all doing good stuff, and we appreciate it. Love you going on, Maria. Love all you guys down there. So if you're listening, and we appreciate that. And that's how I met Tom, through that whole connection. But let's get back to the story here a minute. Let's talk about where we are with this this new charge that you're involved with, this National Collegiate Equestrian Association, the NCEA.
Sure. And that is a great auction. The Orange, what was it called again? Orange Literacy?
So we did it for Literacy Orange for 3 years, and last year we switched over to a new charity, which Kristin and I are very much involved in, called the SAIL Foundation, which is Strategic Access for Independent Living. So SAIL, we're sailing into independence because many of our clients at the SAIL Foundation they are young adults that have suffered either a traumatic brain injury or have Asperger's syndrome, on the spectrum of autism, and PTSD. Right. We serve veterans also. So what we do is we raise money for empowerment. Many of these young adults struggle with living in a silo. They do not have the opportunity, the social aspect. And when my own son suffered from a traumatic brain injury on a motorcycle accident on his 21st birthday, Tom. It was awful. But he's doing fabulous. He's doing great. But because of his connection to that, even this past couple weeks, we've had young men come to our house for dinner, and four of them had struggled with traumatic brain injuries. One boy actually got stabbed from a homeless person, stabbed him in the temple with a screwdriver. Isn't that awful? So they met at Helen Hayes Rehab, and it's really, I have to tell you, it's very humbling to have these young men at my dinner table and them talk about their stories and talk about their recovery. So that's what the SAIL Foundation does, and we're proud to be a part of it. So we're going to raise money this year with the Journey or Not charity relay, and what's the date of that?
It's June 22, 23, and 24, and we're also partnering with the Bergen County Equine Rescue from Bergen County, New Jersey. So we're really excited to work together with them. They have a great team of volunteers as well that are very supportive.
And this year we're doing the auction, but we're also, we have cowboy boots. And cowboy boots, if anybody has a pair of cowboy boots hanging around, new or gently used, we need cowboy boots because many artists and some famous artists have stepped up. And what they're going to do is they're going to be painting the boots. And some of those boots are works of art, and they will be in the auction this year. So we're going a little bit different. We will have the silent auction, but it will incorporate the cowboy boots as well. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, thank you both so much for running those and being involved with those charities, and it's obviously great causes. And that's where we did meet. I do remember being at those charity tables at the Middlesex Horse Show for a number of years.
Yeah, and we have the Journey or Not Charity Classic, and that's always fun. Tom, do you ride still? Can we get you on that team?
Nope. I have too many people. I'm running around holding horses at the rings while my whole family's in the ring.
They're all going 5 different directions.
I'll tell you what, people don't realize, I'm so glad that you're on today talking about this whole epic experience of the Collegiate, because people say to me, "Oh, what does it take to ride a horse?" What does it take to ride a horse? Well, what does it take to get ready to go to a show, right? I mean, it's amazing. It's the road. And something you said earlier, and I'm a firm believer of this, horses teach discipline, do they not?
Oh, there's no doubt. In fact, we were just talking about that last night. Liz and I at our kitchen table. We were talking about how we were. I mean, I said to one of our daughters was sitting there, Meg, and I said, we didn't really plan this, and which ties into that name that you're asking people to call in on. That's how we came up with the name. But we didn't plan, the road that we went down here. But we did it, and we all did it together, our family. And looking back on it, which is really why, we're just pleased as punch that it worked out the way it did, because the kids did have discipline. And the kids, when they're at farms, you can see them. they're playful kids again. They're not all wound up about how they're dressed or how people are looking at them, and all the things that poor teenagers today. I know it wasn't like this when I was a teenager, that's for sure. Maybe I just didn't care, but there seems to be so much stress and that is brought upon themselves, and they just need to be out in out in nature or out on a farm. Yeah. And listen, we know we're fortunate we were able to do it, but you could do it, and at any different level, you can do this. And but what it does is it completely also instills discipline, because if you love animals, whatever type animal it is, but certainly these large animals, horses, I heard McLean Ward talking about this when he won at the USEF, I think, Equestrian of the Year this past year in January, and it was a video that went viral. It was his acceptance speech for that, and he talked about horses, and he said we owe them everything. People who are involved with horses, obviously, because they do everything for us. And I think, your listeners, horse people, they have a connection with that animal, and you realize that they are doing everything you ask of them, but they're also putting themselves in our hands, humans' hands. So, and I think even at early ages, young men and women who are working with ponies and horses, they recognize that. No one even has to tell them. You just know this animal needs to be fed, walked, cleaned, groomed, brushed, and they do it, right? So the discipline that comes out, it's almost a natural discipline. It's not like people standing over you saying, do this for the horse. If you see that happening, the person's probably not an animal lover.
Right. And let alone, just the preparation that goes in. And, there's a tagline. I was a director of a therapeutic riding center for 10 years up here in Warwick called Winslow. And the tagline's healing with horses. And horses have that ability. There's something magical about them. There's something very empowering about horses. And they do that with people. They help people to do that, to healing with horses on any level. You come out of you're at a day that you're working, you're driving back from New York City, you're charged. Hey, you go to the barn, and it's just amazing how it's very therapeutic, and it just kind of brings you down into a very, perfect place of peace, I say. Yesterday, actually, I had the opportunity, Tom, to drive out to, it was far, but I went out to beyond Allentown, Pennsylvania, and I drove to a farm called Avalon Crest. I had a phone call this week from a gentleman, Andy. He called me and said, I'm a breeder, Arabian horse farm. I have an Arabian horse farm, and I'm a breeder, and I'm donating 3 horses, and I'd like you to come out and appraise them. So I said, sure. So I went, and it was almost 3 hours one way. But Pennsylvania is just beautiful. I was up on this mountaintop. I have to tell you, you could see as far as the day's long. And it was over a 100-acre farm. It was gorgeous. You pull up this beautiful driveway. But it was that sense of peace that when I saw all the horses in the paddocks, these are all Arabians, lovely, and just an incredible place. And it gives you that sense of peace. Although I drove so far, it was well worth it to go and see the animals that they have there. So you're right. Horses do that.
And it's funny, what you were describing was something that I used to go through, maybe every other day. You mentioned earlier in the show, I worked on Wall Street for 30 years. And I guess there were days that it was kind of intense and there was a lot of pressure.
Kind of.
And
kind of intense? Just a few days.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Just a few days. So I'd be on my way home, and Liz would call me and say, can you swing by the barn and pick up the kids, right? So I would. And I would walk in, and I don't know. I guess maybe that intensity, my children at times thought, Dad's here, get ready quick. He's had a tough day or something like that. I don't know. I look back on it, I'm like, I don't know, was I crazy or what was I doing?
You probably had that look in your eyes where they're kind of spinning around and they're not sure what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think it scared them. I walked into the barn with my suit on, and I'm sure my hair was standing on end or whatever, but they would look at me and they'd be like, get ready. And I remember looking at them all, and I'd say, well, hey, everyone, slow down. Just take your time, because I got to tell you, this is the best part of my day. Was standing there, and it was therapeutic for me. And I wasn't even getting on a horse, just smelling the horses. So I think I've always had it's had that impact on me personally. And I never even got on one of their backs. I just said, you guys clean the tack, do it right, and I'll stand here and watch you. And I just love doing that.
Yeah, there's something about that, just walking into a barn. I had a barn. I ran a barn many, many years ago. And, you walk into the barn and you feed the horses and they're chewing, and that smell and the sense of them chewing the hay, it is very peaceful and very, very calming. And the thing about horses, you can't walk into their stall and if you can, but they feel your energy. So if you walk into the take Wall Street into the stall, you could be in trouble.
You might get kicked.
Well, the horses, they sense it, right?
Sure.
They sense it. But so Tom, you're doing a great job. I'm really proud of what you're doing for the sport. We're very, very grateful for your commitment. You said you couldn't have planned this any better. I'm looking at the Chronicle of the Horse. I have it with me. I know our listeners can't see this, but I'm looking at volume 79, number 28. And on it is a picture of TJ, your son. It almost makes me want to cry.
That's a beautiful photo.
Look at this. I mean,
look at that horse. I mean, never mind TJ. He's pretty handsome himself. But
that was Cascade. that mare was just an amazing horse. What a great animal.
Tell us a little bit about her.
And you could see in that picture what they captured. You could see in that picture what they captured. That was after he won the medal finals, I think, that picture.
Yeah, that's the medal finals.
At the Pennsylvania National Horse Show. Yeah, that was wonderful. What a great moment. Someone captured that, and they put that right on there where he's reaching down, and there you can see it. I think you can see that.
Yeah.
He knows that mare helped him, and that was a team effort. Those two rode together for years. She was very young.
Wow.
She was a bit green. She was not having success, and people were having difficulties with her. And she was just young, and she needed someone, I don't know, TJ and his trainers, of course, Max Amaya and Stacey Madden helped him through all his equitation finals. But, he and Max worked with that horse for years and years, and it just became really a wonderful blend to see there. People would come up to us, and you always wonder if people are being nice because it's your child in the ring, but I think they were really, moved often when they would watch the two of them go in a ring. It was a really neat thing to watch.
Beautiful.
Yeah, you have to, if our listeners, you have to go on the Chronicle of the Horse and look at that. It's volume 79, number 28, November 7th, and it really is moving. Brings tears to my eyes because this mare, you could see the gentleness in her eyes, but, I was at the North Salem with you and Liz and all of you guys there at the, I guess it was like the semifinals. It was a couple of weeks before the finals. And I have to tell you, Tom, you were pretty calm. I mean, I was like a nervous wreck for TJ because he was among all the women. I mean, there's very few guys. There's not many men that compete. And the pressure was on. The pressure was on because, look, Meg won, right? I mean, 4 years prior. So you have to understand the pressure's on. And there's TJ. He's as calm as Tom. And that ring is, it's, you got to really make the turns and you really got to get it right. There's no room for error, but you can see the connection in this photo of TJ. And I would like to reach out to TJ at some point and see if he wouldn't come on and see what it was like competing in a woman's sport. And there,
That's right.
He rose to the top like his dad and his mom.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, as you say, in the U.S., especially for junior riders in the U.S., it is predominantly women, and even for amateurs. But when you go around the world, the top show jumpers, that's when all of a sudden you start seeing a lot more men. I remember years ago we were fortunate. Meg was asked to ride overseas she went on she represented the U.S. on a junior jumping tour, and we went and the U.S. team was competing against all these other countries and. All of a sudden, we looked around, and Meg walked up to me, and she said, and TJ then was very young, because Meg was young. So TJ was about 12. I think Meg was 16 at the time. And she said, Dad, we need to get TJ over here, because there's a lot more guys.
Yeah. What a great opportunity for her to do that.
It was.
Where'd you go? Where did they compete?
Well, that's a good question. I remember I went on part of the tour. She was over there for a couple of weeks. And I went for maybe a week, and then Liz went over for a couple of weeks as well. And we were in Belgium. That's where we started. We were in Belgium at a couple of shows there, and then we went to France. We were in Reims, France, the Champagne region.
Oh, nice.
And there was a major competition there. And then I think Liz went to Germany and Austria.
Wow.
So it was really quite a tour.
World tour, yeah.
Yeah, great experience. Yeah. Great experience for your family. Well, I think this story needs to be written in a movie, movie script. I mean, it really is a hugely success story of a family, a family that has really, you're changing the way the sport is. You're out there making the difference and making the change. So I just want to thank you for being with us today. I really enjoyed having your daughter also. Abby, she's a great kid. She's a wonderful young woman now. She's not a kid anymore. But
That's right.
Your family's making a difference, and Tom, you're really changing the way things are happening. Thank you for fighting hard for this sport. Can I mention? Yeah, you can mention anything you want.
I wanted to just mention earlier. I said that we had some really good news I was going to share with everyone because one of our efforts is going around talking to universities. And listen, there are probably real close to about 50 schools now that we got that little black cloud that was over the sport a couple of years ago. We cleared that up. The NCAA said keep going with the sport. Division I, Division II, revoted. The councils revoted to continue equestrian as an emerging sport. So we've got NCAA complete support to get this thing to championship status without really a clock being on us right now. So but the good news is athletic departments are open to having conversations about this again, and literally it's close to 50 that we're having live. They run the gamut of, a kind of a casual conversation that's interesting to we're modeling out the sport for them. And they like businessmen coming to the table and going through the finances with them. So, at the end of the day, it's a business, collegiate athletics also, and they do have to raise the money. But these schools are paying our girls to ride. That's one of the big difference with this format of collegiate equestrian. And the really exciting news is we just had yesterday a huge announcement from a major program on the West Coast, University of California, UC at Davis.
Oh, wonderful.
Which they just announced they're starting an NCAA equestrian team this September. In fact, they're also starting a beach volleyball team because they needed to create more women's opportunities. So there's 2 women's sports they just announced at the same time. And we couldn't be happier because, one, we need some more schools out on the West Coast. We always hear from all the California junior riders and their parents, we need more schools out west. So there's Fresno State out there and now UC Davis. But UC Davis, and this was the one that was killing me because it was obvious, UC Davis is the number 1 vet school in the world.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, and literally it's a world ranking. I don't know who gives them that, but I've read that. They're also the number 2 ag school in the world.
Wow.
So they have 5 club teams on campus. They have barns on campus. There's 150 horses on campus, and the school's mascot is a Mustang. So when I looked at all this, I said, how could you guys not? And they didn't really know. Athletics, there was new AD, and they didn't necessarily know that equestrian had gone from, listen, they've got all these great club teams. They got IHSA, they had rodeo, dressage, eventing, polo. They had everything but an NCAA team. So They realized they needed more women's opportunities in athletics. And that's one of the things we're very careful. I just want to close with. When we go out and talk to universities, listen, we want them to add an NCAA team to their athletic inventory. We do not ever want them to stop anything to do with their IHSA programs. In fact, in a perfect world, and I had the president or the CEO of the USEF say this to me recently, he said, Tom, in a perfect world, there are 4,500 colleges and universities in America. In a perfect world, every one of them would have both an IHSA team and an NCAA team. And I said, exactly. That's the way it should be. It's just more opportunities for people to ride, some in one format, some on the athletic format. And this is just great news. So UC Davis is another example of that. They have every club team there is, and now they've added an NCAA team. So really excited about that, and a lot of people are looking for that type of momentum.
Yeah, well, that's great news, Tom. Thank you for sharing with us today about that. And, if there's no vision, right, there's nothing. So that's the goal, to get all of these schools involved. And I want to, again, thank you for your hard work today. And we're going to let you go. But let's stay in touch, and we're going to plan on seeing you, hopefully, at the horse show, right?
That would be awesome.
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So, all right, Tom, we're going to let you go. You got a busy day. Say hello to your family and tell everybody down in Colts Neck hello, okay?
I will. Take care now.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. That was Tom O'Mara. Wow. Unbelievable,
That's
right?
awesome.
This is a man making a change,
Do
making
I
a difference.
Do I have a second to tell them where the website is?
Oh, please.
Okay. Go to usef.org. You can get a lot of information about equine activities there. I learned something new today. I learned about vaulting on horses. Can you believe it? It's true.
On that website.
Yes.
Yeah.
They also have something very unique that is interesting for me. You can access their new Learning Center videos. you can see a sample of it. And if you want to learn a lot more, courtesy of all of the people who work with that organization, providing you a great education, you can join us as an Equestrian fan member for $25 a year, or for $80 a year, you can join as a competing member, and then you'll have access to their network, their Equestrian magazine. You'll get discounts and more. And so make sure, no matter who you are, whether you join or not, you can go to the website, usef.org, and get a sneak peek at their learning videos.
You know, I do a lot. I actually use them for my appraisals. So if I have a horse, I get the USEF number, and then what I do is I go in there, put the number in, put the horse's name, and then I get the whole show report. So I can pull up a show report and see everything this horse has done, how many horses were in the class, what class he is. So it's a
wealth of information.
It's a great opportunity.
And some beautiful pictures, especially of people in their fancy outfits vaulting. I can't believe it.
So I was a vaulting coach.
I can't believe it.
You know what vaulting is? Vaulting is acrobatics on horses.
Unbelievable. Yeah? I mean, you see people do it in the movies,
it's
but I didn't know it was like an actual sport.
Oh,
it's kind of scary.
It's actually a competitive sport.
Yeah.
We had a vaulting team at Winslow, and it was it's fun. I remember, the kids, they're basically doing acrobatics on horses. So that's a whole nother topic. But we're going to run out of time, and I have some announcements. So I want to thank Tom Amara for being with us today. And I also want to tell you that I have an interesting topic coming up, which is Hello to Avalon Crest, I want to say, Arabians, where I was yesterday. Chris Kistler, she's the barn manager. And Leanne Wieland, she's the assistant. And we had a conversation yesterday where I was looking at those horses. But we're going to do something on the nurse mare business. That's a whole business thing for the moms and the foals. So nurse mares, we're going to talk about that. Do you believe it's almost 1 year anniversary?
No.
422 is the first show that I did.
Exciting.
And guess who was my guest?
It wasn't me.
No, it was Hugo from Olympia Farm.
Awesome.
This wasn't planned. Hugo is the trainer where Tom Omar's wife lives, and how this whole connection came together. So I can't believe a year's gone by already. Goes fast. So upcoming events, what do we have? Sunday, April 15th. We have stables at Mirabella, 341 Jessup Road. Hey, if you're listening and you just want to go check out a horse show, maybe you know nothing about horses, give Terry a call at 845-224-9356. That's this Sunday, April 15th. Don't forget Tax Day, April 17th. That's the 17th. Sunday, April 15th, there's also a Gymkhana show coming up at UC Fairgrounds. That's up in New Paltz. New Jersey Horse Council, quarterly meeting, April... Did I miss that one? Oh, April 14th. That's today. 10 to 3 in Binghamton. All right. Get in your car and get there in a hurry to get to Binghamton. April 17th, you have an open meeting. This is this is Ulster County Horse Council open meeting. That's at the fairgrounds. You can give Donna Putnam a call if you'd like to get up there to New Paltz, 845-728-2229. And I have to send out an apology to Allison Clark because Allison's the president of the New York State Horse Council. She's going to be on next week with me. We're going to talk about the Longes Masters Series ride in April 26th through the 29th. So Allison's going to be on with me next week, and we'll talk all about that opportunity to go in and see an incredible horse show right here in New York City. And I want you to stay tuned because, as I said, WTBQ, radio worth listening to. Tom Lovelace just walked into the studio with a whole entourage of people. Who are all these people? There's going to be some good music going on. And at 10 o'clock, you got Wine Time with Mark Chisholm. I start to call Mark the professor because he knows everything about wine and spirits and beer and all that. And Dan even likes them, too. So Mark has got more energy than, oh, my goodness, than imaginable. He really knows his stuff, but we're looking forward. You want to say anything? We got about 30 seconds.
Well, I just wanted to say I had fun at Wine Time. He gave me three suggestions for bottles of wine, and they're all my favorite.
There you go. And it's what, like, you buy three. You don't have to buy a case. You get three. You get the discount. So it's good stuff. We really love Mark and Wine Time. So I'm going to step up there this afternoon myself, but we're out of time. Thank you for listening today, and we're going to just say, just keep horsing around.
It just makes sense.